Hello and welcome back to the Umbrella Entertainment Radio channel. I am your host 1T.R.E and this is the 1T.R.E Radio Show. Now, here at the 1T.R.E Radio Show, we are dedicated to bringing you true, revolutionary, evolutionary thought processes. I mean, yeah, we start with a normal basis of thought because, I, like you, live in this world and I've been programmed in a certain way. But as I grew old, I started to strip my human programming and start listening to that spirit of God inside of me, and I allowed that now to reprogram my human brain. So here we are on our third show, and we are already knee deep into the muck of discussing the modern relationships between man and woman. And of course, we throwing in no traditional aspect because I do believe that, like I say, our parents and our parents' parents and even our parents' parents' parents, they will definitely influence and program similar to us. And like I said, man, all of us have that spirit of God in us. Yes, but this human world has offered a lot of years of just evolution and change. And in that evolution and change, the one thing, this pillar that I want to go into, that I definitely see has changed the most, in my opinion, and is, if not the greatest, it's the second greatest reason after the origin story, in my belief. It's a tie between that origin story and this pillar that leads to why men and women really have a struggle in that relationship aspect. And that pillar, if you can remember from the last show, is education. Yes. The mighty, mighty sword of knowledge. I like to look at another aspect of education that's often overlooked. Traditionally, in my opinion, when we look at our parents and our grandparents, an aspect of education that I refer to as experience, right? Now, experience is individual to each of us because, as I'm always saying, we're all on our own specific journey in this world. But being on that specific journey, what I have found by looking at it in my own life and by having in-depth conversations with other men and women on their lives, is that there are certain human elements and certain laws of nature that just exist, and they've been existing for millions of years, from what I can understand, and they just don't bend like gravity. Right now, if you jump up, you will come down. There's no doubt about it. Now, are there powers above my understanding and above my my educated mind and my finite, intelligence that will allow a person to defy that? There just may be. But from my living and from my observing life, what goes up will come down. Another thing, man-made, physical-made things that try to enhance our lives through incorporating these natural aspects, sometimes they do fail. But one thing I've never seen fail, like I said, that sun is going to come up. Like I said, if there's some time and period where that will happen or somebody can make that happen, hey, that's above my knowledge and understanding. But the point and gist of the whole thing I'm trying to get at is experience from living, from life itself, carries, a lot of weight. Carries a lot of weight in my opinion. I understand as I try to live through life, the experience I have as I can tell a young man, look, young man, please do not look at as a woman as merely a tool for your pleasure, because through experience, when I attempted to do that, I truly did not bond with a woman, and I truly did not understand a woman, and I truly did not portray the leadership skills that would attract a woman or even any human being to my environment. That being said, experience. Education in the form of experience is overlooked. It's definitely overlooked. And I believe now more than ever when it comes to our younger generation, and I'll say that, like I said, from my perception of life, because I was young too. You know what I mean? I ignored a lot of things that my parents told me. I ignored a lot of things that my older peers in the neighborhood were telling me. You know what I mean? A lot of the elders, I ignored that. But one thing I can say and I can respect about men in a general sense is that there was an education amongst men. Like I said, that this is the way that you become a man. And these are the things that allow you to go into manhood. And that education, whether perverse or ignorant, it maintained constant. But one thing I observed from like I said, my experience in life, when it comes to that, to our counterpart, our female counterpart, and if I may, excuse me, all ladies who are under the sound of my voice, for a minute, if I attempt to speak from the point of view of a woman, and I understand that is confusing territory for a man at times, but excuse me, it seems that there is no formal education in the sisterhood when it comes to teaching how to become a fully formed, highly evolved woman. It's almost like a, you know what I mean, a free for all, which, like I said, I understand we are all on our own journey, and I understand that. But there are, in my opinion, some examples of women who have lived their life and been on their journey, and they've experienced life, and they know from an innate sense that they have a natural ability to mold and gear young ladies in a positive way. So to those ladies, you know what I mean, I just want to see more of them also. The same I want to see those in my group, in my counterparts with the males. So experience, like I said, man, experience in these days and times, in my opinion, when it comes to our younger youth, they 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 just don't want to hold. They don't want to hold on to any type of traditional or in any leadership that comes from the elder males before them, the generations prior to them. It's like I don't even want to look at you at all, as opposed to my generation. What we did, we took a peek. We took a peek at it, you know. We checked out what the OG was saying on the corner with the beer in his hand. Even though he had the beer in his hand, we listened to him. You know what I mean? Sort of. You know what I mean? We had a... And I'm from the South, from a more, you know what I mean, southern region. So please excuse my generalities when it comes to that too, because I know different geographical areas, they carry a different mode and different mood when it comes to interactions going up in the in what we call the ghetto or the inner city or, you know, the projects. All of those derogative term, derogative terms to describe, you know, what people who unfortunately don't have a lot of money live. So experience, y'all. Experience in education, it means a lot. It holds a lot of weight. And that experience, I think, in these modern times, the elder generation, you know what I mean, when I speak of the elder generation, I speak of the 35 and up crowd. That generation, you know what I mean, they have a breadth of knowledge that they know innately that can help a lot, but it's because they really believe that they won't, the crowd, the audience, the younger audience don't want to hear that. I definitely believe that they hold that education back. So when a woman sees another young woman doing whatever she's doing, and she may not be going in a necessary direction that you know what I mean, that's gonna allow her to be in a physically and spiritually, you know what I mean, highly evolved state. And instead of that woman stepping in, or instead of that gentleman stepping in and educating that young woman or that young man, you know what I mean, it's almost like, hey, that ain't my life. But like I said, man, that high evolved man, that high evolved leader wants to not only conquer and ravage for himself, but he want to conquer and ravage on a higher level to create communities, to men families, you know what I mean, and live life, you know what I mean, in a higher, evolved, positive way. I mean, it's only so many ways, only so many adjectives I can give it, but you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying. You get my point, I believe. And I look at the world from a view as, just speaking in generalities here, we all perceive the world in the way we perceive the world, and then we just vocalize that back to the universe. And with that being said, I understand there's extremes on both sides. And I believe that there are always going to be exceptions to every rule. So please excuse me, I do not mean to offend anyone, but I want to speak in generalities right here. I believe the education, when it comes to the sexual makeup of humanity, is very much null and void. You know what I mean? Almost non-existent. And what I mean by that is this. It's in this society we live in, and for as long as I can remember, and my parents and my parents' parents, from what I can understand, your education on sex was always received from either your parents or it was received from your peers. Those peers could be family members, they could be distant friends, outside schoolmates, what have you. Now, a lot of times, those perceptions that people develop about sexual relationships between humanity are molded and programmed through media, what have you, whether it be radio, whether it be television, or whether it be nowadays social media. And oftentimes those interpretations and those representations, like I said, they are not accurate to each individual, or they're not even accurate to the masses, but those programming and those messages go into your mind, and oftentimes those messages and those programming, they cause trauma, serious trauma, to the point where now, speaking about what I understand, sexual humanity, and just the aspect of that, of teaching that to a young person, as far as an educational route, it's like no one's figured out how to exactly put that into an educational package that's effective. Because like I said, in order to accurately address the issue, you have to go back to young men like me when we were just, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And now you have to take those men realizing what happened, and now you have to re-educate. And you have to re-educate through adult, non-traumatic practices. You know what I mean? We have health class in school. And like I said, a lot of times you'll have individuals that have been going through traumatic things sexually in real life. And those things do not cooperate for a healthy sexual conversation when it comes to educating your offspring. And with that thought, I want to segue into my next pillar. I call this pillar bonding. Yeah, the bonding pillar. And it's so fun in this pillar because I believe when we're looking at the relationships between men and women, traditionally and modern, I think a lot of, like I said, the education and everything and all those pillars that I preluded to before, they they skew our view of bonding with another individual, specifically bonding with our counterpart, our male or female counterpart. For instance, when I talk about bonding, right? When I look at the typical American relationship, whether it be a girlfriend, boyfriend type relationship, or a marriage type relationship, and I say American because I'm more. This is where I was born, and I haven't really. I'm not one of the people that you can call that has been well traveled, but I've experienced a lot of different cultures. So here in this American way of life, what I've experienced is that a lot of the reasons that we get together, the underlying reason is financial. I mean, it just makes sense for two people to come together and bring their resources together and build in that way instead of living a separate life. Now, on the flip side of that, if you have an individual or two individuals who are doing well for themselves in this land we call America, and are financially in a state of being where it doesn't infringe upon their bank account to live an independent, separate life, then there's a scenario where that can work too. But like I said, I'm speaking in a generality, and so as I look out into the whole masses and I see relationships, a multitude I see from these relationships, they come together on an underlying reason of finances and economic stability, but it's sort of masked as this love for one another. And as I go deeper with that, let me further explain my position. Okay, you can have an individual in a house or an apartment staying with somebody in a girlfriend or boyfriend relationship. But if it gets to the point to where one of those individuals wants to leave, or they no longer feel like they're being served, or they no longer are being heard or respected or any of those things, it now presents a factor to it. Like, if we were here and we were bonded together as one and we were building together to have something in a union or in a bond, then as now I'm looking towards the door and I'm ready to leave, my leaving is predicated upon my economic situation. And if my economic situation is not of one where I can leave and be independent now because I've been investing in this union and this bond, then now it becomes a point to where, like, now I have to basically live in this position and play a certain scenario or play a certain role when I really don't want to play it. And even though we're still attaching ourselves as husband and wife or girlfriend and boyfriend, and we're still living that sort of scenario, deep down inside, the underlying reason why we're here is because of economic stability. Now, thank God, all my life I have been blessed to be in a situation to where my economic stability is not based on or predicated by the existence of another person being in my direct vicinity. Thank God for that. There have been situations where I have shared a mutual dwelling, and in sharing that mutual dwelling, I, as the man, always believed that I was supposed to provide the lion's share of the resources in that mutual dwelling. And I'm speaking of specifically in a situation where I'm in a mutual dwelling with a female counterpart that I consider my girlfriend. Now, in those scenarios, like I said, I've been blessed to, like, if this young lady wanted to leave, or if we felt like our situation was coming to an end as far as being together, it was always my intent to make sure that if you were investing in me, then yes, maybe on that emotional level, on the feeling level, and on the love level, you may feel a little bit just left out, or you may feel like I took advantage of you in some type of way, and that's great. We can work through those feelings, but guaranteed on a physical level, economic stability level, you and those people, and I'm speaking in first person, but I'm also telling a story of the past. But in those situations when I was with those females, I would never allow them to leave the situation to where, like, your economic stability and your investment in me was null and void. You always got a return on investment, or ROI, if you will. Because like I said, I always understood the business of a relationship. And I always understood that in that bonding process, you want to not just be there for a tool for someone to have an economic stable lifestyle. You also want to experience the natural knowing and ability to see that person for who they truly are and allowing them to speak, allowing them to tell you on their journey if they do feel like this journey is coming to an end, and allowing those moments to not be awkward and not be of something of a downfall, but something of a uniqueness to where like you now experience the ability to really be free and really be understood and know that your ability to be free and be understood is not going to cost you any economic downfall. And I know I said a lot there, but I really want to be careful and strategic with my words because, like I said, I'm understanding I'm talking to people of all types of genres, all type of backgrounds, and all type of beliefs. So I'm trying to be very general and I'm trying to be very scientific with my topics. So as we move forward and we continue to compound on this issue of bonding, I seriously believe, like I said, all those elements prior, the education and everything we talked about, they don't allow the modern person and the traditional person to bond correctly with that female and male counterpart. You know what I mean? A re-education of sorts would allow it to look like this, to where I can look at you as specifically the God you are and understand like, yeah, just like me, we've been programmed some things and some obstacles in our head that really leave us in a traumatic state. And we're probably forever going to be rebuilding and healing ourselves and continuously blocking those messages. But as we do that, since God has brought you and I together and aligned together, let's truly communicate. Let's truly understand who we are and truly understand what our purpose is together. And let's formulate a purpose. And let's love each other on that purpose. Let's understand that we can speak power into each other instead of taking that power and calling each other names and defiling one another. You know what I mean? There's a passage that I've read in a book, and it goes, it's not what goes in a man that defiles a man, but what comes out. And I understand that there is power in that tongue, and what comes out of you can either create to build, or what can come out of you can create to destroy. And it's just you just got to understand who you are, which is another element of bonding. Before we begin to bond with someone, we definitely want to, I really, really, truly think we definitely want to look at how do you really feel about yourself? I mean, Miss Houston said it best. The greatest love of all is learning to love yourself, right? And I definitely believe if you're looking at an existence of a people, right? And we're talking about all people here, but let's give a beginning starting point. Let's say if you start at slavery, let's just start there in the 1400s, 1500s, when there was such a thing as that in the world, when people were in bondage. You know what I mean? On both sides, there were the ones that were placing people in bondage and the ones that were in bondage. And from that time to this time on, there's been a lot of traumatic events on both sides. And the offspring, as they continue to be born through those traumatic events, the lessons passed down and the things that we've learned and the things that have been communicated have a lot of times been communicated out of prior trauma and prior experiences that may or may not have been the best for us, but they were all meant for us, and they were always supposed to be for an education and a learning, but a lot of those were not taken for an education and for a learning, and things were not put in order. So continued replication of those problems and those evils were present in different offspring until we are here now. And still to this day, I believe a lot of those traumatic events and traumatic things have not been addressed. And we continue to communicate and pass them down, and we get them all misconstrued in our bonding processes when we're bonding with one another on an intimate level as man and woman. Now, I don't know what loving yourself looks like to you, but let me put out here what loving yourself looks like to me. To me, loving myself looks like being able to sit with myself. And like I said, being able to spend time with me, understanding me, my likes, my wants, my true desires. And even on top of that, as I dig deeper, why do I have those desires? Are those desires that have been embedded in me and implanted in me by programming? Or are those desires things that are truly just a part of me? And how do I now go through my life and let that positive side of me that makes me great, you know what I mean, outweigh that negative side of me that tries to tell me I'm not due to programming that's been programmed to me, that I'm just an ordinary person, and that I don't deserve the things that in my innate godly sense I know I deserve. For instance, we all deserve to be loved and to be loved the way we desire to be loved. And also, we all have an idea in our mind of what love is, and we all have the right to express that love. The trouble is when we try to express that love to an individual that definitely does not receive that love in the way that we're expressing it. And then we frustrate ourselves and we try to now force a union that we understand is already problematic and conflicting from the beginning. Life is a smooth flowing natural thing. It's just like water to me. Like, water flows, and anyway, anything that gets in the way of water, water either goes around it or goes through it, goes over it, etc., etc. I feel life is a free flowing thing as such. It's to the point where when you start to love yourself so much, and you start to get to know into yourself so much, that now you begin to go through the earth and you attract things, and you understand yourself, you understand the flow of God in you so much that you begin to float through life. And I definitely believe that as you float, as you begin to float, you start being accompanied by other spirits that align with you, and these spirits and these human beings interact. And it's just to our disadvantage that in the situation we are right now, that when we begin to interact, all we know is to come together and to, yes, we can make children, we can build homes, we can, yes, we can get in debt, we can with cars and with mortgages, you know what I mean? And it's like, after we accomplish that, all we know is to live, pay bills, and that's it. And I believe, like I said, the programming and the systems around us, whether it be capitalism or any other system in place that puts money and resources at a point to where they outweigh morality and righteousness and the fruitfulness of the human spirit, and any ideology where that becomes now supreme, or that becomes as a god or an idol to people. Yes, you're going to now have a situation where you put people's best interests in a lower state. You really begin to now, as another passage in a book I've read says, that in the end times, people will become lovers of selves and reject God. And how I interpret that is, it'll become to the point where, like, that physical form of you will now become so prominent to you and so prominent to you that you'll get to the point where you totally restart nulling the God voice in you, and you're only looking to satisfy that worldly, carnal sense of you. And that's what I see in the common relationships between our modern men and women. And as I wrap up this third episode, I definitely just want to leave on that point. And as I bring all of those elements in, and I bring them to a close, like I said, my goal is not only to present a problem, but now to plant a seed, To all the people under the sound of my voice, especially my brethren, my men, my leaders of this physical world, we definitely need to stop that conversation of speaking directly to women and get back on board and building the brotherhood. Let's now, and like I said, I understand that there's a disconnect between the youth and the elder, the OGs, the 35 and up crowd. There's a disconnect between us and that 30 below crowd. But my understanding is this: if this 35 and up crowd is, we can now start within our own group showing each other, the brothers, the respect that they deserve. Like I said, just because a young lady shows you some type of sexual attraction or physical attraction, it does not mean that you need to always engage in that. What has doing that over and over and over done for us all of this time? It's now time to now engage into a point when you get to those ages, when you get to that extent in life, and maybe even before that extent in life. I'm just using a gauge in time that now in the modern days that we can see. But when I say 35 and up, that's really not old. And when I say 30 and below, 30 is really not old. Like I say, this thing needs to start at a very young age, but just gauging where we are right now, right? Gauging where we are right now, let's just stand up, man. Let's look at our young ladies, our young men where they are, and understand that the true leaders now need to be the evolved leaders. And understand, even in every aspect of the world, that the relationships that we build are going to be the most important thing, in my opinion, that you can ever do. Yes, you can pay bills, you can buy material things, you can spend money on jewels and vacations. Yes, but the relationship that you build in this world with people, oh my God, there's no other greater fulfillment to know that you can be an inspiration and that you can inspire or to be inspired or to show love or give love. You know what I mean? And with that being said, that is the end of the 1T.R.E show. Tune in next time on show number 4 where I say, yo, we're going to bring it all to a close. We're going to wrap it all up, and we definitely going to get to the seed planting business of the relationships between the traditional man and woman, the traditional relationship between man and woman, and you know what I mean, and the modern relationship aspects as well. So, hey, as always, y'all, stay positive out here and tune in, like I say, next time to the 1T.R.E show right here on the Umbrella Entertainment Radio channel. See you next time.